Joining me now from Saskatoon for more analysis and understanding around the jury selection that happened today, I'm joined by defense lawyer Brian Pfefferly. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Jill.
We were just listening to Charles Hamilton describe that only a fraction of the potential jurors came out for the selection process today at Gerald Stanley's trial. Is that normal?
Well, it's certainly normal that a large number won't show up. I mean, percentage-wise, usually somewhere around a third won't show up. When more than half don't show up, that would be slightly unusual, but there can be any reason why that can occur. Sometimes, although 750 might have been called, there might have been a number of jurors that would have contacted the sheriff's office in advance, indicating they're out of town or out of the country or whatever. And so maybe that 750 might have only looked like 500, and then about half of the 500 showed up. So it's hard to say how many were excused prior to today. But one would have expected more than 200, but I'm sure that was part of the thought process in making sure so many were called.
Right, cast your net wide and then you'll be able to whittle it down. They've got their 12. This trial, the case leading up to today's jury selection, there's been so much conversation about it. It is high profile. So how can lawyers make sure that they are picking jurors who are not biased?
It's so difficult, and a lot of it comes down to essentially a gut feeling. And I always say that it's more of an art than a science. And sometimes when you're selecting your jury, the accused and the juror, the potential juror actually look at each other. And the judge, through the clerk, will say, a juror look upon the accused look upon the juror. And sometimes you get that gut feeling, you see a stare down or a smirk or something that just doesn't sit right, and you say, I don't really want this person on my jury, or yeah, I do want this person on my jury. It's more of a hunch than anything, and it just maybe a hope and a prayer more than anything else. Defense counsel will typically try to get a bit of a playbook. We'll have the names of the jurors, and because of social media and whatnot, we could sometimes Google them and find some information about the juror themselves, but it's somewhat limited. We have to base it off stereotypical views of what a certain person from a certain profession might do, the age demographic. Is this person involved in religious organizations? Are they supporting the Sask Party, supporting the NDP, supporting the Liberals, supporting the federal Conservatives on their Facebook pages? Those sorts of things you look for, and then you try to make a decision that would fit with the theory of your case.
You're certainly trying to make your best choices and decisions and judgments based on what you see as a lawyer. And for jurors, as they listen to a case and start to form their own decisions, how do we know that they aren't being biased and basing these decisions on their personal views versus the letter of the law, which is what they're entrusted to do?
I think it comes down to the consciousness of people and the community, and I believe in the jury system as a lawyer. I know that I've represented First Nations people before and hoped for more First Nations representation on the jury, and ultimately found that the jury listened to our arguments and were very fair. And I think at the end of the day, this comes down to the fact that the judge is going to take control of this. He's going to remind the jurors of their duty, and it's not going to be a duty that anyone would take lightly. They're going to, no doubt, in my view, based on my experience, take that duty very seriously. So I think it's a situation where one always sort of anticipates a certain demographical representation, but at the end of the day, the judge is going to control the jury through the jury instructions, and juries, I believe, listen to those instructions very intently, and they do take their role very seriously. So I would anticipate the judge taking control of that, and fully expect the judge to use the usual instructions that they do in giving juries the bias cautions that they normally do.
We're hearing from Colton Boucher's family some concern that, in their view, there isn't anyone who's Indigenous on the jury, although we haven't independently confirmed that, but they're raising it as a concern. Should they be concerned?
Well, I understand First Nations people involved in the justice system often, I think, have felt like they're on the outside looking in, and I understand that can be a concern. I think a couple of things that I would note as defense lawyer. Of course, it's the accused's right to a trial and a fair trial, and they are entitled to use their peremptory challenges and pick a jury along with the Crown that they believe is comprised of a fair representative sample of the community.
Is there any data, anything more hard and fast as to whether all white juries would be more sympathetic towards white defendants, or is that something that just has turned into a bit of a perception, as you say?
I think it's a bit of a perception, although we sometimes turn to the United States for some of these sort of thoughts. I think anecdotally, it's hard to know because every case is different. But the United States, I think that there's an understanding that visible minorities are more typically likely to acquit or find the accused not guilty than to convict them. So that being Hispanic and African American people in the United States, they keep different data because they can, of course, contact jurors and have discussions with them. Where in Canada, we have I think, frankly, a better system that is confidential and maintains the integrity of the jury process. But it's so hard to know what will be sort of the composition of this jury ethnically. We know male and female quite easily. I think we can say that, but ethnically, it's so difficult to know. And I believe that gut feeling is what it comes down to. And if jurors are challenged, it's usually on that gut feeling more than on stereotypes. It's the look that they gave or didn't give to the accused and that sort of thing. So,
thanks for your insight today, Brian.
Thanks very much. We'll be following this closely.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk to you again. Brian Pfefferly is a Saskatoon criminal lawyer and sessional instructor at the U of S College of Law. You can read more about this story on our website, cbc.ca/sask.